Coming at you a little earlier than usual. If you're just waking up now, it's 10:30. It's time to get the day moving on this Tuesday after a holiday. But we've got some Champions League action, and you're here for your best bets. You're here for Mr. Martino Puccio from The Athletic Betting, also State of the Play pod co-host. Martino, appreciate you joining the show. We're just a couple hours away, but I think last week was kind of weird Champions-wise, but this
Mhm.
week I think we might see a little bit of a step up.
Yeah, we got a lot bigger names this week, I think, and I think we're hopefully going to see more goals. It was very bizarre to just see a lot of 1-0s. Again, XG didn't really reflect that, but hopefully it goes in our direction. We're going to be discussing a few of those things, but again, my team got the win, so that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, XG enthusiast, me included, kicking the wall right now. We had a kind of up and down week. We didn't outright take that Dortmund money line. We're still waiting on the Dortmund to advance. You had taken Spurs to advance last week. Did hit the Bayern or draw and Bayern money line in that game. I did want to ask though, because obviously a fresh new slate here. You're taking Spurs to advance minus 144. That line right now is at plus 135. Obviously, Milan won 1-0 last week. Is that something that you would end up taking and doubling down on, or are you out on that?
Listen, I can't go against my team since we're up, so it would be a bad look. But as far as value goes, plus 135 is a pretty damn good spot. You're only down 1-0. You return home. Again, Spurs aren't going to be really returning players from injuries. They're losing Eric Dyer in this situation, and they really looked lethargic. I don't really care what happens in the Premier League. I don't see too much changing. But the good news is that they didn't allow 3 goals. But again, Milan are going to return Benacer, Mike Magnan, their goalkeeper, and Fikayo Tomori. Those are the 3 best players in each of those positions for Milan. So the advantage goes to them even further. And now they're rounding into form, unlike Spurs. But again, if you like looking at just the 1-0 scoreline, it's still pretty decent value for Spurs. And I
Mm.
can't even recall the last time we won in England. So it could have been back in 2007. Actually, we didn't even win that game. It was 2-3. It always felt like a win when Kaká scored 2 against United. But it's been a while. So be wary of that if you're trying to take Milan to advance to the next round.
But we will cross that bridge when we get there. We have a fresh slate of games to get to. Let's start with the 2 games for today. Again, 2 games today, a little before 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 games tomorrow at the same time. Let's start with Madrid and Liverpool rematch UCL final. These are 2 teams that have disappointed a little bit. Liverpool has been a mess, though they have turned it around the last couple of games. And Madrid just has not been their usual dominant self as we continue to move through the post-Ronaldo and Messi years in La Liga. Tell me which way you're leaning here, because these are 2 teams that have not shown you a lot, but at least Liverpool has been a little sharper recently.
Yeah, 2 of the more difficult teams to bet on this season. You thought they would be a little bit more reliable, but I think this is where the lack of consistency in attack works. I mean, Darwin Nunez, we knew he was sort of a project. Even Cody Gakpo joining as well. We didn't even get a chance to see Luis Diaz at the level that he was when he transferred over last season. So there's been a lot of high XG, low output. And what we saw last week and what we even see on the weekend with Real Madrid is they're winning matches where they're close score lines and they're not allowing the other teams to score. So for me, this is just, I like going with under 3.5. And I know it's kind of weird, but both teams to score at plus 195. If you parlay, it's pretty decent number, right? Because we're asking for what, a 1-1 game here. That's not too crazy considering the amount that they both create. And at the same time, can we rely on them to score that much? So that's kind of where I was leaning in this direction. You could always go with, I know I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here. The both teams to score no is definitely possible as well because
Mm.
of the lack of output. The creation's going to be there, but how much are you going to be relying upon these players to put it in the back of the net? For me, I just think there's going to be enough opportunities on both ends to get this both teams to score over the line. And then again, a draw is not out of the question here
Mm.
because I don't think there's a significant advantage on either side. And where we're playing in this, I don't think it matters. But for me though, the mental edge is with Real Madrid. Even if to advance to the next round, Liverpool has been struggling. And the funny part is, anytime Madrid is struggling, it's really not that bad. Even compare it to the Yankees, right? Like, oh
I
my
was gonna
God,
say that,
the
yeah.
Yankees are in a terrible spot. They still haven't had a losing record in my lifetime, so I don't know what that's coming from. Real Madrid are still in second place in La Liga, and they're in the knockout stages of the Champions League. So the worst version of Real Madrid is still a pretty damn good team. So don't be too scared off. But again, I'm just scared of the lack of finishing because Darwin is always in those great spaces, but he has those issues, and that's why he's more of that project than the finished product at the moment.
Yeah, sky's falling, but you still win 85 games, 90 games in a season. Must be nice. But anyway, I do want to ask you because you mentioned it under 3.5 in both teams to score is it can get a little tricky. You're kind of rolling the dice there. So let me ask you: you can get both teams to score and no draw. So essentially, that double chance along with both teams to score. I believe the number I saw was at 145 plus 145 on DraftKings. Is that an option you would take, or is that just throwing too many potential outcomes out there?
I mean, it kind of is, right? But to me, I just wouldn't on the off chance of just the creation. I don't think it's going to be crazy high scoring. It's just, again, for me, I could just see the 1-1 type of thing. Same vibe
Hmm.
that we were having with Chelsea and Dortmund. And I know I'm going to get crap for it because we saw Chelsea hit a couple of posts and then a goal line. And Chelsea, again, just super frustrating. But for me, it's just we see this kind of attacking style going down with these sides right now. And I still think Liverpool have that capability. Again, I know I'm going against me betting with them like I did with Chelsea this week, but there's only 4 games, so I have no choice.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's just I don't believe the 1-0 score lines that we saw last week is reflective of what the play was. The play was fine with a lot of these games. We should have seen more goals. I do
Hmm.
think that's what we're going to see here, but high scoring, the finishing just isn't there. But the draw, like, hey, you could still see a 1-1 score line if with the under 3.5. That's something there. But both teams to score now is just, I don't know, man. That's just not for me. Just not for me. I don't
Yeah.
want to sweat that out.
No, I'm staying off of that. These are still teams that can put things together, and there is enough talent, especially at the UCL level. Value wise, it's got to be the Real money line, right? Like this is a nice juicy number to take them at. Again, the play has not incited a lot of confidence, maybe for either side.
Yeah.
I didn't put it up there. If you watch the show, I'm a fan of the double chances when you're just a little unsure. If I had to lean one way, it would be that Real or tie double chance there. I like for the second half to be the highest scoring half here, and allow me to bring out my expected goals numbers here. These bump up a plus 11 for expected goals for Madrid from 24 to 35 expected goals from the first half to second half. And for expected goals on target, it bumps up plus 13. They've scored 11 more second half goals than first half goals. And it's not as much of a difference for Liverpool, but it goes up plus 6 in expected goals and plus 8 in expected goals on target. These are teams that get more shots on target and they score more in the second half. Best number you can get that at is minus 115. But again, I like that under 3.5 as well. You talked about a couple of these guys. I want to ask you if you could only pick one of an anytime goal scorer. Vinicius Jr., we know he scored against Liverpool, plus 330. Cody Gakpo, who has scored in the last 2 games, plus 260. And Darwin Nunez, who you said is always a wild card, but did score last game at plus 220. You can only take one of those three. Who are you going with?
Oh man. Just straight up, but based on that, I mean, they're always in area. I mean, Vinny probably. I mean,
Uh-huh.
Vinny is arguably the best goal scorer in terms of consistency out of all these guys. Is he
Yeah.
necessarily in the best position all the time? No, but if we look at the value at plus 330, my thing is like too, we're at Anfield now, so the type of atmosphere that it's going to be is certainly going to be waning on these guys. But Vinny is just that type of guy who comes up in the moment. We saw it last year, especially in the final. I would take him over that. But again, Nunez is going to have the most chances out of all these
Hmm.
guys. So it's not necessarily to say that. It's just he's the least trustworthy. That's the funniest part of all of it.
Yeah.
Welcome to betting, huh? But for me, Vinny plus 330.
Yeah, there are multiple TikTok audios making fun of Nunez that will agree with you there. Let's move on to the other game we have for today. It's Napoli and Frankfurt out of the Serie A and the Bundesliga. Two really good teams. Napoli look like they are running away with the Scudetti. Tell me who you're going with in this one.
Yeah, so again, away match for Napoli with this. They've been in incredible form the entire season, Champions League included. They topped their group. The only loss that they had was when they went to Anfield and ended up losing that one. That helped Liverpool get through. But man, I mean, they don't seem scared whatsoever. Every single big place that they've played in this season, Anfield included, they have done such a great job. And I don't think Frankfurt's going to be any different. I do like both teams to score. Minus 150 is a solid number. Under 3.5 as well. Listen, Frankfurt know they have to be very defensive here as well, because going into the Maradona for the return leg is probably the worst thing possible for them. I do have Napoli advancing. Napoli, even long shot odds, by the way, just to step away from this match really quick. Plus 1,000 is what we've been seeing in most places. And I think out of all those teams at those long odds, I think they have the best opportunity. This is their best matchup. Again, Victor Osimhen or Kvara, anytime assister or goal scorer, wherever you want to look in those player markets, those are the two guys. They're either assisting the other or scoring. It's been a consistent thing all season long. They've got a decent amount of rest as well during that. And their lead is so significant within Serie A that they're going to be able to rest some of these guys even for the return leg. I think that's massive for them. But again, on the road, I think Frankfurt's going to be a little bit more defensive. And again, Frankfurt's a great scoring team as well. And I know there's a player, I don't want to talk about him just yet because I'll let you do it. But again, there are guys who can score in this one. Mm-hmm. For me, by far, the best bet in this is both teams to score, yes, at minus 150. Out of what we've seen in firepower-based teams like this, that's a pretty damn good number, regardless of where this game is being played. So that's the one I like the most.
Yeah, I like both teams to score as well, but that's not my best bet. I think my best bet here is just the Napoli money line. This is the better team, and sometimes soccer is a real bitch, and it does not live up to that. But I think a match like this, I think Frankfurt know they're not in a position where they can take that many chances right off the bat. Whether Napoli scores first and then that maybe opens up a little bit is a different story. But I like Napoli on the money line. And you mentioned it. There is a gentleman who has scored 7 goals in his last 6 games in this match. We talked about Marcus Rashford a couple of weeks ago, and you said that you were hands off. You weren't ready to pull the trigger because you weren't ready to make it 7 straight games. Colomwani is right there for the taking, and pretty good value. We talked about, someone like Gakpo and someone like Nunez, who are a little more inconsistent. You have the consistency here at that plus 225 number. I think if his name was Ronaldo, with the kind of form that he is in recently, this would be a minus 120. So I advise for you to jump on this if you are so inclined.
Yeah, listen, Colomwani, again, it's really funny that the two, I guess you could say, scapegoats during the World Cup. He was the one who had his shot saved against Emi Martinez, and then we see Lautaro. Lautaro is the name he probably said the most on this.
In case anyone forgot.
But they've been the most consistent goal scorers outside of Marcus Rashford, scoring in multiple games in a row in their league, and Colo is up there, and now he's going to get sold for God knows how much this summer because of this. Plus 225 is a really solid number as well. So I love where you're coming at with that one. So I agree with you. And then the Napoli money line. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime I talk to any Napoli relatives or friends, they're very superstitious. Very superstitious. They will not openly say they're going to win this game, even though you guys do have the best value. It's okay to say you're going to win. It's just get over. They're up 18 points. They refuse to admit they're winning the league. They're not going to say it until they're mathematically clear. It's a real thing if you ever have any discourse with Napoli fans. I love you guys. Best of luck today. I do think you end up getting the win as well. And again, long shot. If you love long shot dark horse plays, Napoli is that one right now. You're not going to see a better team with everything lining up, in my opinion, with those odds.
All right, lock it in now. So we've got our 2 games for today already set up. The other 2 games will be tomorrow. But before we get to that, just want to remind you again, if you are watching on Twitter, now is the time to go over to our YouTube. All you have to do is subscribe to us on YouTube, and you're automatically entered to win $500 this month. All you have to do is subscribe on YouTube and comment on any video. You can comment on this one. You can comment on any other video. Just drop a Martino in the comment or your best bet for today's games or for tomorrow's games, and you're automatically entered to win $500 this February. All right, Martino, spiel over. Let's get to tomorrow's game. We'll start with Inter and Porto. Again, another Italian side. We talked about Lautaro Martinez. Maybe we'll take him to score. Maybe we won't. He's burned us a couple times. I digress. What do you like here?
Yeah, so listen, Porto money line straight up, right? So this isn't really just me saying I would want to place this, right? It has nothing to do with me wanting Inter to lose. But Porto does have a recent history of playing very well against Italian sides. Smacked Milan last year, ended Ronaldo's hopes and dreams of capturing his 6th UCL with Juve and whatever. That really wasn't it. It was Chiesa stepping up in that one. Fact is this. You could talk about how difficult it is to win in Italy, but when we have a team that has proven it the past couple of seasons and they're coming in at a plus 400 number on a money line, I'm sorry, that's just incredible value, regardless of how well Inter is playing. Shocker, both teams to score again in here. Don't love Inter's defense. They're capable of scoring a lot. Maybe Lukaku got off the snide, but Lukaku scored over the weekend, and I think it's a really funny note to make, is that he ended up scoring a penalty, but it was on a retake. He missed his first ever penalty with Inter. So you see the type of season it's been for him. Udinese had a lot on the counterattacks here, and they did play later on in the week. They played on Sunday, so we'll see how much this is catching up to them. Simone Inzaghi is very weird with his rotations. I just think Porto is just in general to advance the next round. They're at a plus number as well. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion Inter is going to advance in this. This could easily go either way, but I think the value is just clearly lying with Porto over both legs as well. And again, I think the advantage of playing on the road in an environment that you're not typically scared of, like Porto is, I just think there's just so much value there. And Inter's defense isn't exactly lockdown. This isn't something that they're going to be able to just like not give up opportunities. There were plenty of opportunities for Udinese, by the way. And Porto is a really strong side when it comes to goal scoring as well. They have the 2nd most goals scored in the Portuguese league behind Benfica, and we know how much of a powerhouse Benfica is. For me, I really do love Porto in general. I'm not going to personally bet it, but out of all the 4 games we have this week, the money line is undisputable at this point. You're not going to find better than plus 425 and what has been in some places.
I love how we went through those first 2 games and, we weren't going chalk, but we were like, okay, maybe no huge surprises. And I go, okay, we finally get our biggest discrepancy here, plus 400. And you're like, yeah, maybe think about taking plus 400. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a direction.
I mean, it's just it's like it's not even that big of an underdog we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a team that you could easily see making in a quarterfinal in Porto, and Inter's been probably one of the bigger surprises. I mean, knocking out Barcelona is no small feat, especially what we've seen from Barca this season. Injuries aside, they gave Bayern a great game as well. We know what Inter is capable of, but they're Jekyll and Hyde out of all these teams left. But again, plus 400. That's insane. I'm sorry. We're not asking for a 3-1 win here. We're just, can you go in and get me a 1-0 at the San Siro? Yeah, that's very doable. And again, they're in great form. They haven't lost a game recently. And Inter's they've been up and down. They're getting the results, but it's not like Inter's been clear cut a better team. But yeah, for me, it's simply a value play here. It has nothing to do with what the current form is as well, which is also supporting Porto.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about current form, I'm going to go in a different direction. I like the under 2.5 at minus 130. So Inter has allowed 6 goals in the last 11 games. In 6 of those 11 games, they have scored either no goals or 1 goal. They've hit the under 2.5 in their last 4. And Porto has had 5 clean sheets in their last 6 victories. they haven't scored more than 2 goals in their last 6 games either. So despite all their big goal numbers and the fact that, again, I agree, Inter's defense is not a given each game in, game out. I like the sound of a 1-0 Porto win. That worked for me too. I just think that recent form in mind, I like less goals in this one.
Yeah, and again too with Inter's schedule, I don't think they've really had it that tough in the league. We're talking like probably the best team in form that they faced was Atalanta, and that was in Coppa Italia. So take that with a grain of salt. Even in Serie A, they're not playing the greatest of. Cremonese is by far the weirdest team in all of Europe. They still don't have a win in the top 5 leagues, but they're in the semifinals of the cup. And even then, they got scored on by them. They got scored on by Udinese. They couldn't beat Sampdoria, who are garbage. So this is Pazza Inter. They call them Crazy Inter for a reason. This is like if the New York Mets won more titles, but the craziness was in there mixed with more success is the best way to describe Inter. So again, not that, dude, like you have to really be invested in what Inter is as a whole entity to truly see it. But yeah, again, the under 2.5 is nothing to scoff at as well. So that's a pretty decent number.
You're gonna get me roasted in my group chat over those Mets comments. I really don't appreciate that.
I'm a big Mets fan too. It's okay.
It's fine. We'll go down together. Let's go to game number 2 for tomorrow. Last game on Wednesday, Manchester City and RB Leipzig. 2 teams that have lit it up the times they have played. They've played twice. There have been 12 total goals in those matches. Tell me which way you're going here.
I mean, listen, City money line was something I was like looking at. I typed it in the doc, and then I was like, you know what? I don't know, man. There's just a morale vibe around them right now, and it's not a quality thing. I think when you give away your best fullback to one of the other Champions League favorites in Bayern, it's a very bizarre situation. We see the locker room issues. We see Pep's comments publicly. Even Haaland is missing some weird chances in front of goal, despite him being a machine. I still think City are going to get theirs at the end of the day. Shocker, both teams to score again, because there are going to be those opportunities. But for me, it's just with City at this point, it's kind of like, do you trust them? And there's this lack of trust I have with this squad right now, especially in this competition, that's severely lacking. Again, it's totals and both teams to score is the only direction I would lean in. I know that's where you're going as well. Yeah. Just a money line purpose with this. There's something about City right now that's kind of rocky. And again, we know if City miss out on the Premier League title, that's okay. But if they lose in the Champions League, all hell is going to break loose again. Because what we talked about in the opening shows for this, by far the biggest favorite in this competition is Manchester City. The only team outside of PSG really that's expected to win this that has not won it is Manchester City. And everyone is on their high horse saying, well, look at City now. They're even worse than they used to be. Erling Haaland's making them worse. But then why are they favored? Then why are people taking them? Like, it doesn't make sense. Maybe it has something to do with the VIG. I don't know. But what I'll tell you is I don't rely on anything else but the goal scoring in this. I'm not going to pick a winner. And again, I know it'll sound stupid, like, oh, this guy, of course he's saying this, but and then going back to say, of course I see City winning. But just because I see multiple things happening doesn't mean I'm going to put my money on it. So yeah, I think that the safest is where I think we're both leaning is just both teams to score and some totals here. Over 3.5, I think also as well. That's if you're getting, I'll let you mention the over 2.5, but in that case, if it's at that low of a number, which is a pretty good one, why not take over 3.5 at that point? Because you mentioned the 2 matches where we see 12 goals.
Yeah, and for those people saying, you see it and you're not betting it, I see myself in a Ferrari. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I agree with you 100%. Like both teams to score over 2.5, only directions I'm going in here. Leipzig actually second in the Bundesliga behind Bayern, which of course only won 1-0 last week, but we don't have to talk about that. Weird. In games that hit over 2.5 with 14. These are 2 teams that are still capable of scoring. Again, there's just too much around City right now for me to just trust them on the money line. If this is a plus number, I'm taking this blind. Like if it's looking at me at plus 105, plus 120, whatever it would be, I'm taking City on that money line because I do think they will win. But do I trust them enough to take them when the money line is minus 125? Not a chance. Like there has just been way too much volatility around. De Bruyne did not practice. Laporte did not practice. So their status still up in the air. Probably not going to start. Might not even see them in general. I just give me the goals. 3.5 is a little risky, but like if you come at me in 2 days and say and show me a City 3-1 scoreline after tying to Nottingham Forest, like it's just the kind of season it has been. Like I see it happening. Like you said though, I don't trust it enough to put money on it.
And then it's also Leipzig's approach to this. Are Leipzig going in saying, okay, as you mentioned, De Bruyne not practicing, are we going to go full throttle at home to put ourselves in the best position possible to advance? Because shift to the pressure being in the return leg for Manchester City. City doesn't want pressure in this competition. It's the one thing that they can't even go into the Bernabeu last season when they're up a couple of goals, feeling great after a Mahrez finish, that they're feeling well. Any single time there is a piece of adversity for this team in this competition, they crumble. They do.
Yeah.
And if you're Leipzig and you have this German ideology of stepping on someone's throat in football, they're going to do that. And I just think that kind of approach is going to be there. It's solely going to have to be on Erling Haaland at this point. Because if the creation isn't going to be there from 100% Kevin De Bruyne, whether he's there or not, right? We're probably not going to see him 100%. He's their best player outside of Haaland. Like, it's kind of like, what are we expecting here? Julian Alvarez is going to do something off of the bench? Maybe. For me, it's just, there's too many question marks for a team that's supposed to be so heavily favored. That shouldn't be a thing. And that's where you fall into this trap. And a lot of it's in American markets. We still see it, like, again, over the weekend. I'm sorry to bring up my team again. Zlatan Ibrahimovic hasn't played since the final match day in Serie A last season. He was the top goal-scoring odd over the weekend. And it doesn't make sense, okay? What we're seeing a lot of the time popping up in this stuff, regardless if the Champions League has more play because it's the biggest competition, you can't always trust what you see, all right? So you're going to have to go by your gut here in recent history. And recent history tells us goals and don't trust City. And that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah, I'm good with give me 3 goals again. 12 goals in 2 matches between these two teams. That's all I need to see. Both of them have hit at over 2.5. Martino, as always, appreciate you joining the show. I will talk to you next week. More soccer picks, more football coming your way. You can see Martino's handle, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you can see him. TikTok as well in the description below. Make sure you're following us on all our social media pages. And again, make sure you're subscribing on YouTube to win those $500. Till then, catch you next week.